There's so many videos out there on the positive effects of being sober, and all of them are true. I've made tons of videos on that, and I believe it 100%. There's so many positive things about being sober. But there are some struggles with being sober that I think we really need to talk about. Today's Thanksgiving, and I know the holiday season is very hard for people, especially if they're newly sober or even, years into sobriety. It just brings up a lot of feelings. You have to deal with people that you don't see on a daily basis. And it really got me thinking about these things. So I wanted to make this video today on the challenges of being sober, because you're kind of like an island, unless you're in AA and have a really strong group of friends, but you're kind of like an island when you're sober. So let's talk about that. Hi and welcome. My name's Jamie. This is Jamie in January because I feel like I'm in a perpetual state of New Year's resolutions in my life and just growth and change and self-awareness. So if you want to come on that journey with me, we can do that together. I would love it if you would subscribe. But let's get into our tips. I have about 7 things I want to talk to you about that I really struggled with during my first few years of being sober. I'm almost at 6 years in a month now. But in the beginning, there was challenges that actually persisted on further than I thought. So I figured we could talk about those. The first tip is, or not tip, the first challenge that I really experienced was I quit drinking when I was 44. So I had been a drinker from the time I was like 15. I mean, can you really say you're a drinker when you're in high school? But yeah, I had been a drinker since I was 15. It seemed relatively controlled. I had wine with friends, and I never really seemed to become like this blackout drinker who, had terrible withdrawal symptoms, but it was a part of my daily life. And so all of my friends were also drinkers, and it was a part of their daily life, and that's what we did together. Even if we, went to the park, we went to the park with wine. If we went to the movies, we went to the movies with wine. If we had cookie parties, we had wine. So wine was a huge part of my life and my social life and my self-identity. And so I was surprised, I shouldn't have been, but I was surprised when I first quit drinking that I lost a lot of my friends. It wasn't a purposeful, malicious losing of friends. It's just we lost touch with each other. Our interests weren't the same anymore. We didn't really have anything in common, and that was hard because I didn't want to lose some of these friends of mine, but we just kind of grew in different directions. So losing my friends that I had been very close to for a while was a challenge that was hurtful to me. When you're a drinker and you use alcohol unknowingly, maybe as a coping mechanism, things start to get a little shaky when you no longer have alcohol in your life, and suddenly that numbing agent and that false release of dopamine is gone. You start to feel everything. I saw a meme once that was like, this is so rude that now that I'm sober, I have to feel all my feelings, but whatever. And I totally relate to that. So you feel everything very, very strongly. And unless you work on some coping skills like breathing or taking a time out or journaling or whatever, it can be hard to navigate those hard feelings. So learning to live without a numbing agent was something that I wasn't actually prepared for. I mean, I already thought I was miserable when I was drinking. So now that I didn't have the numbing agent, my feelings just went really out of control. So that was something I hadn't expected. Be prepared for that. You can get through it. You just have to be kind to yourself and trust yourself and sit in those negative feelings. They will pass, I promise. What I didn't expect when I quit drinking was that alcohol had become a symbolic friend to me. A very good friend, a very warm and like romantic friend, I guess you could say. It sounds weird to say it now, 6 years later, but I felt heartbroken that I had to give up drinking my wine. And So it is kind of the grieving process. You're going to go through those 5 stages of grief of denial, bargaining, anger, depression, and acceptance. And you might bump all over the place with those over the years. So just know that addiction is, it's something that makes you feel connected to something. It's a terrible toxic substance, but nevertheless, you feel connected to something. And when you give that up, now you're just left all alone with just you and your crazy thoughts. So having to truly allow myself to grieve that process was important to do. One of the ways that you can do that is, you have your milestones. So you've been a day sober, you've been a week sober, you've been a month sober, you have, 30 days, and then you get to a year. But I do want to prepare you for something, and everyone is different, but in my experience, I was waiting for that year. Waiting for that year gave me energy. It was like, no, you can't drink because you have to get to a year. And it didn't matter how bad my days got. It was like, no, you're going to get to a year. And then I think somewhere in my mind, I thought once I hit a year, I'd be good. I'd be golden. I'd be fine. And so when I still had struggling feelings and thoughts and, feelings of loneliness over the loss of my coping mechanisms, I was completely taken aback, and I really had to reevaluate my whole sobriety plan at a year. And that was something I didn't expect. In fact, I think actually at a year, I started going to AA meetings because I just felt like I wasn't handling it very well. And I think I cried more in that first month after I hit my year than I did the whole time in my first year. So, breaking points are good too in our journey of growth, because then I was like, whoa, what we're doing isn't really working. Yay for me that I got to a year, but I really was not handling it well. So I had to change some of the things that I was doing to keep myself sober. Another thing that I was so surprised about when I decided to quit drinking was almost this shame that I felt about quitting. Like I didn't want to tell anyone I was quitting. So I had told people that I was doing the 30-day challenge. Even my husband, I did not tell him that I had made the decision to quit drinking. I just couldn't. I had this horrible shame about quitting drinking. So one of the things that I encourage you to do is maybe not at first until you're ready, but own the fact that you're sober. Honestly, being a sober person in this culture is truly an act of rebellion. And you are hardcore and you are a badass. And I really want you to own that you're sober. If you ever feel like it, starting a channel like what I'm doing right now is such a wonderful way to, it's almost like verbal journaling, but also if you read the comments in my videos, it builds a community, it really helps people, and sort of being sober and living this journey out loud can be a lifesaver for someone else. So own the fact that you are amazing and what you're doing is so hard and you are so strong, and your future self will thank you for it. I feel like something that surprised me when I quit drinking was I sort of felt like I would be me, just minus the alcohol. But really, I completely lost that version of myself. And I've also seen quotes on that subject of like, you're gonna have to, I think they're a little bit brutal, but like, I think you're gonna have to kill your old self to get your new self to, grow or live, or you're gonna have to lose your old self to become your new self. And that was true. And while I love the journey that I have gone on and I embrace so much who I am today, and I'm so proud of where I have been, what I have gone through and where I have been and where I am now. But it is I am a different person, and my friends are different, my relationships are different, all positive, but that's a comfort zone I lived in for quite a long time. And so making that change and growing through those feelings was something that I also wasn't prepared for. It's quite a journey, you guys. It is quite quite a journey. And again, I was saying, I just figured that I would quit drinking and have to get through like not drinking. Like, okay, this is the whole thing about being sober is I'm going to quit drinking and I'm going to focus on not drinking. But the sheer amount of mental work that goes into that, and then all of those new feelings springing up and no coping mechanisms that you're used to, it was exhausting. I don't know where you guys are in your sobriety at this point. I would love to hear about it. If you would leave me a comment of how long you've been sober, but I was never more exhausted in my life in that first like 4 or 5 months of being sober. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how did I function for so many years drinking so much? And now that I'm not drinking, I'm exhausted. I don't know. It was crazy how fatigued I was. But part of that, I think, is just the sheer mental strength it takes to go through this process. So be very kind to yourself. Be very gentle to yourself. Give yourself actual hugs. You've seen me do this in other videos, but I hug myself like, no girl, you're good, you're good. It actually helps. I would try it. But the sheer amount of mental work is a lot when you're newly sober. If you need to watch any kind of video on the health benefits of not drinking or the physical benefits of not drinking, I'm gonna link those 2 videos right here. I hope you have a very happy holiday season and stay strong and keep coming back.